Hi, Allie. It's good to talk to you again. It's been, I think now we're on video number three together. I know you're in sales. I know that you do make some cold calls. So tell me about how that's going for you.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for having me for the third time. So, third time is always the charm. And you see, cold calling is something that I'm getting into these days. Now, this is something I used to do 12 years ago. And in the last decade, I didn't have to make the cold calls. I had the team to do that. We usually used to deal with only the bigger customers, bigger wholesalers. But since I'm new in Canada and I'm working in this, it's basically a distribution center, okay, and they sell cell phones and accessories and laptops and consumer electronics, and they have this big base of customers who are not working with them anymore. So my ask is basically to reactivate those accounts. And
That's
once I
great. That's actually great because it's less of a cold call. It's much
exactly
less of a cold call. It's more of a follow-up slash warm call at this point.
Exactly, yes. Cold call slash warm call. That's what it actually is. Why? Because these people, I mean, the ones that I'm calling, they already know this company. Maybe 2 years back, 3 years back, they worked with them some times ago, and it is quite easier to reactivate them. But the problem that I'm having is that their CRM, the software that they're using, the numbers, they are not very updated. So I mean, I have to do a lot of work in getting the right number so that I can reach the right person. And many employees that I'm calling, they have left that company. So this is a challenge that I'm facing. But since cold calling is your thing, and I want to use today's session to learn more about cold calling so that I can do better at my job.
Well, you know what? It's funny because even though you're going after old inactive accounts and you are going to get some wrong numbers, you are going to get people who have left, who have moved on to other jobs, and then, you have to dig up who the next person in the queue is. You're actually in a better position. You are in a much better position doing that versus going in super cold for the first time. Like, I almost love those kind of like leads, those kind of lists. I find you can do so much more with. So I would just tackle them and I would just, find out who the next person who has replaced, person A, who's person B now. And then just say, I had a relationship with person A, and that's your way in, right? These are just obvious points, but it's just the grunt work and, getting through the, not in service numbers, wrong number, out of service, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like that I would just go after that and you can do so well. I remember doing something just like this, a project for a health professional, and she had a ton of clients that were inactive or they didn't remember her for like 15 or 20 years ago. And it's amazing. I got so many appointments just out of that. And just by mentioning her name and just by talking about the past, it just so much amazing stuff came from that. So that's why I'm saying, like, you're in a very good position.
And to add to that, I mean, the reason that I'm getting from these dead accounts, why are they not reactivated, is that simply because nobody called them.
That's
So when I'm calling them, they're like happy that, okay, from this company, because the company is offering very competitive prices and they have been in the business for a long time. And all the, I mean, the kiosks that we see in the malls offering phones and accessories, they usually buy from this company. So
right.
all of they know about it, and nobody contacted them maybe in the past 6 months or so, in a year or so, because this old sales team at this company, they left. So it is relatively easier. I understand that, and once I get a cold call qualified for a sales, I close the deal, and it is usually 10,000, 20,000 sale. So it is
Beautiful.
still better. It is still better. B2C is different. I've done that for Bell Canada. I've done that. I used to sell Bell TV project, and I had to like call maybe 200 300 calls a day. And now I mean, these days I'm only making 30 calls a day, and 30 calls is as much as they need of me right now, because they don't need it anymore. Why? Because the calls, they need background check as well. Like I need to see the old transactions, which kind of products they were selling, so that I can offer them similar products. And if I know their buying pattern, then it is easier for me to sell.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, so this is what I'm doing these days.
No, and you know what? I'm glad you mentioned B2C versus B2B. I know a lot of what I discuss on this channel is business to business, but B2C is an interesting beast, right? So the turnover is much quicker, much quicker, much quicker, right? And the conversations are different. You know, I wouldn't call them less professional, but I mean, I'm trying to find the right word to say this. They are a little softer. How about that? Right? They're a
In
little softer and they move a lot faster versus, voicemail after voicemail, getting passed on to one decision maker to another, moving to various departments. Like you don't deal with that stuff. So there's pluses and minuses to working with, B2B and B2C. So I'm glad you mentioned B2C. So if I were to ask you, what is like one of the biggest obstacles you find? Like, let's say if I were to ask you B2B and then B2C, what would you say?
so in my opinion, B2C is like you're educating somebody, and like you're telling them that this is the deal and this is how it's going to be. But when you're talking to a customer who has been in the business for 25 years, 20 years, 10 years, they know the deal. They know what kind of offers the other companies are offering, what are your competitors' prices, and they know all of these things. And you have to make your way through all the competition, and winning a customer in B2B is more challenging. Why? Why? Sorry about that. Because the clients, I mean the prospect clients, they are well educated in their field, and they know all the nitty gritties of these things, even better than me, because you see, I only started 2 months ago, and they have been doing it maybe 20 years. So it is difficult in B2B, but because every crisis has an opportunity. So when you close a deal with a B2C customer, it could be maybe $200, $100, $50. But when you close a deal with a B2B customer, that is $20,000, $10,000, easy money, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, so this is something that this is a challenge that I'm facing as well, that I have to work a lot harder with a B2B client. And this is also an opportunity as well. And once I close a deal, it's easy money.
Right. But I think rather than looking at it as easy money or not easy money, it's just, what is the process? When you're going after B2B, what is that process? And that's a very broad category. Okay. Now we have to take like different industry sectors, right? Look at, companies or industries that have a short sales cycle. Your approach will be different than with a company or business that has a very long sales cycle. So it's too broad to compare those two brackets, like B2B, B2C. But if you can just focus in on the industry, what the main way of selling is, and I'll give you an example because we're talking very general terms here, right? If I'm, speaking to recruiters, for example, and they have a very short sales cycle, it's a yes, no kind of deal, then, cold calls can work very, very well, I find, with shorter sales cycles, shorter sales cycle businesses. They can still work well with long-term cycles like okay, I'm not going to mention, but like commercial real estate or, a different beast altogether, right? You're building that relationship. You're not expecting a sale right away. You're building that trust. You're building the momentum. You're, connecting with different players. There's so much to do, right, in that sales process. And after doing all of that, things can go a certain direction, right? As an example, so your calls and your approach and your emails and your follow-ups are going to look very different. You're not going to be as, in your face, or you should be at least, right? Whereas if you're targeting another type of industry, it's okay to be a little bit more forthcoming. So it really does depend on who you're going after and who you're speaking with at the end of the day. So I would frame it that way versus, B2C or B2B.
True, true, true. You see, in B2C, for example, if you're selling a subscription, okay, so you sell a subscription to a B2C customer, and that's it. But here in B2B, in my industry, that is technical, products, right? Phones and accessories. Here, I have to close a deal. And for example, that person buys a $20,000 product. Then I need to work with that customer for a long term. So I
Mhm.
have to act like a key account manager for that customer. And that customer will be linked with me. He will be sending me orders for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So once you close a deal, then it goes long term. And I have developed a process. Sorry about that. I have developed a process, and it is, I would say, a cowboy style, but I'm going to share it with you. So the first milestone that I've set for myself is that I need to get my contact card added into that person's mobile phone. You see, if the person is not going to save my number in his phone, when I send a broadcast, maybe on WhatsApp, that person is not going to get it. Or if that person even gets it, he's going to ignore it because he does not know, he does not have my number saved. So the first milestone that I have is to get my number saved in his phone's memory. Okay, so that's the first milestone. Then second, I start sending him the prices, the offers, whatever packages we have. I keep on offering him every
Mhm.
week. Okay,
Yeah,
and in response of that, the customer would come out and he will give me his order, or he will ask me general queries. Okay, that I want to buy this, let's say iPhone 14. How much are you going to sell me for it? So I'll go to my inventory manager, I'll check whether it is available or not. Then I will get back to the customer and I will tell him that, okay, this is the price. And then he will say that, okay, I want 20 pieces, I want 30 units. Like that's a process that I have created, just
that's
small,
right.
and these small milestones make me happy, and they make me closer to my goal of closing that deal.
That's right. It's like knowing a process. Like if, we work with various clients and I noticed that we're on the phones. We have to do different things with different, like I just said, with different industries. It's all about the process that works. And you might not always know what that is at the beginning. I don't like lie to people and say, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen. I say, look, I find out from them what works for them. And if they don't know what works for them, I say, okay, there's going to be like a period of like, a week or a few days just to figure out what that process is and what will work best and be the most efficient in getting that response. Because even if you get a no response, it's still a response, right? It's getting that constant, consistent flow is what you're looking to achieve, when you're doing these calls. So do you have any final words you want to share with
Oh,
that?
I want to say one thing about cold calling at the end. Like people these days, businesses, they think that it is out of fashion, because maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, cold calling was in the business. But these days, I see many businesses, they are going after digital marketing only, which is a good thing. I mean, I'm not against digital marketing, but
Mhm.
maybe there is still a need to make that cold call. So, in my opinion, and this is, a message to the audience as well, whoever is watching, that cold calling is never out of fashion. It is, it is still useful, and since I'm doing it right now, so I can attest to that, this is actually the way to go, along with all the modern tactics of digital marketing and social media marketing, etc. So these are the final 2 cents that I had.
And I agree with that. I agree with all of that. I'd love to come back and say, no, I don't agree with it, but I do. You're right. It's a combination of efforts and figuring out what works best and when. The timing is also really key. So thank you so much.
So thank you again for having me, and thank everybody for your time. I checked the comments on the previous video, and I love those comments. Thank you so much for to your audience for making such nice comments.
Awesome. Awesome. And leave more comments here. You can do that. Thanks.